Good morning. It's Robert Forrester here. I'm sat at my desk in Virtue House, and this morning I'm joined by Liz Cope, who's our Chief Marketing Officer. We were giving some thought to communication across the group, and obviously with the lack of management meetings, we haven't had a general manager or a line manager conference for over 12 months due to COVID. Actually, Dave Anderson, I think we had last January, as it happens. How do we make sure people understand what we're trying to do and actually get to know some of our senior people a little bit more? So we're going to do something this morning, which is I'm going to introduce you to Liz Cope, our Chief Marketing Officer. And we're going to have a chat and a bit of an interview. It's a bit like a televised one-to-one. So Liz is the guinea pig on this. And I think marketing is so important to our business, and not many people in the group have necessarily met Liz. So I thought we'd start with Liz. But if this works, and it could either be a monumental waste of time, or it could be something that we want to do more periodically. And now we're getting to grips with this Teams technology. We can actually just record things ourselves. So good morning, Liz.
Good morning, Robert. I like the idea of a televised one-to-one, not match.
Well, open and transparent organisation that we are. I mean, you've been with the group for about 3.5 years now, I think.
Nearer 4 now.
Nearer
4.5,
So
I think.
do you just want to outline what you did before you joined Virtue, sort of your experience in the realms of marketing, as it were?
Yeah, of course. Well, I've worked internationally and across many sectors, and I'm often asked, in fact, one of the first questions I'm often asked by people when I introduce myself is, why have I managed to work across different sectors, and what is it that makes that work for me? Well, it's really about an obsessive need to understand the customer, and then using that data-led approach combined, I guess, with creative thought to create new products and opportunities. So, Robert, you often introduce me as ex-brand director for Dyson, and yeah, I did that for about 4 years, inventing some great products like the Digital Slim, the little slim vacuum battery-operated vacuum cleaner, and that came out of consumer insight. I've also worked for Orange. I worked as many roles in Orange from just post-launch to sort of 11 years afterwards when it was a multinational company. I've worked with beer. I took the Peroni brand around the world. But just before I came to work for Virtue, I worked in America as the vice president for global marketing for a floor care company that owned brands such as Hoover, Vax, Dirt Devil, and Oryx.
So why did you join the automotive sector? Notoriously hard work.
Well, I like the idea of getting into retail. So although I'd done a lot of e-commerce, I'd never worked in retail before, and that was new to me. And I like cars. I'm not that's particularly important to this, but I think the key driver was the culture of the organisation and you and David. When I met you and David, you interviewed me in Heathrow, I think.
Yes, we did, actually.
And we just got along, and I thought, I like your vision. I like what Virtue Motors stood for. And that was the key driver, to be honest. And the opportunity for change.
Yes, which there's been plenty, hasn't there, and plenty more to come. Yeah. I don't often talk about diversity and issues like that. In fact, I don't even like the word necessarily. But you're clearly, a female, and you're in the automotive sector.
Not allowed to say that, did.
I'm going to say it anyway. Nevertheless, you are a female. Is being a woman in motor retail difficult, do you think? I mean, there'll be a lot of managers and colleagues who are women watching this, and they probably sometimes don't appreciate just how many senior women we have in the business. We are pretty, not dominated, but there's a fair number of very powerful women in our business.
Yeah,
Is it difficult or not?
No, mate, not in my experience, and I'm not saying people haven't found it difficult and don't find it difficult in other, in other companies, but I've never found it difficult, and I haven't found it difficult here, and I don't know whether it's because of my careful choices, the companies and the culture and the people I choose to work for, or whether it's my approach. I'm not quite sure. But I don't think it matters if you're a woman, a man, or whatever you want to call yourself. You just have to be good at what you do, and you have to do your best. And if you do your best, then I think people listen to you. And I think that's, and I think you have to choose the right companies to work for, and that's a choice most of us have.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've not come across anybody in our organisation that is struggling because of their gender, male or female. To that point, is it difficult to work in this industry as a man?
We've got to be quite aligned to it, I think, really. And the whole point of our company is to make it a meritocracy, i.e. the best people who work hard and succeed do well, irrespective of what they come from. And we got a respectful environment. And
Yeah,
people
totally.
often look quite critical at our business. And I don't like to talk about diversity agendas and stuff like that too much. But then actually you look on the ground and certainly on the gender way, we've got quite a lot of very powerful women. So I suppose you need to look at the facts rather than the talk.
Oh, totally. But you look at the values. You choose to work for a company based on the culture and the values. You look at your values, the values you put into the organization when you and the team set it up, and they set that up for it not to matter about gender, because it respect and integrity and professionalism. As long as we deliver those values, then there shouldn't be a problem.
Marketing's changed a lot in our business in the last 3.5, 4 years. And I think we're in a very good place with regards to marketing. What do you see as your biggest achievement in the time you've had with Virtue?
I thought there were loads. I found this quite difficult when I was thinking about this question, because I think I could list loads and loads, but you know what it came down to is that I think it was gaining the respect of you, of David, of the board, and most importantly of CEOcom, because if we don't have that, we can't work as a team, then we can't deliver anything. So I think that was really key, and has been really key. But well, I have to say, we have a cracking marketing department, arguably, quote you, the best in the industry. And I think that's taken a lot of hard work, both from my team, you, getting the right people on board and bringing them into us and our industry, and just bringing a level of marketing skills that we just never had before.
I mean, not many people know, but I mean, certainly 3 times a week, I'm on a call at 9 in the morning till 10 with your entire marketing team, going through marketing from PR to data obsessiveness, statistics.
So marketing's on the agenda, isn't it? Maybe that should be my answer. We put marketing on the agenda between us all, the team, you, the CEOcom. We put marketing on the agenda, and
the CEO
and it's not always
has worked. It is working. I mean, the CEOcom are on those calls every time we have a marketing call. And I know you have one 5 days a week. I'll probably do 3 days a week. We have a couple of operations directors in rota to give us the operational expertise, because marketing can't be sort of off on a tangent. It's got to be absolutely at the core. But there is obviously a massive change from the old days when general managers and sales managers would do marketing and fire off an advert to a local newspaper, compared to today. I mean, do you want to just give people some of the insight into some of the complexity and technology that you actually end up dealing with now?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at what are all the aspects of marketing, I mean, I think you can sort of divide it into 6 key areas. First of all, you've got, the job of marketing is to create demand, isn't it? To create awareness, whether that be planning the media, TV, Google, pay-per-click, but whatever, press, radio, whatever it is, we have to have a plan that creates that demand. Then we have to create, so that's number 1. Number 2, we have to create all the assets that are going to be used, whether it be TV ads, digital ads, radio. I mean, there are so many different formats, hundreds of different formats we can use. Number 3, we have to manage all the platforms. So what I mean by that is our websites, for example, or our social media platforms. We have to develop new pages for them, new online content, search engine optimization, Google changing the rules the whole time, to improving the conversion rate of optimizing those sites, so that whether it be a website or a Facebook feed, so that it does the best that it can. That's 3. Number 4, lead management. How do we optimize the way these inquiries come into us and make sure we get as many conversions from those as possible, so when they hit the dealership, they're ready and ripe. So obviously we have the internet sales team, we have central reception, all of those form part of that process. Then it's sort of making those customers come back again. So after sales opportunities, how can we make sure that we continue to drive service bookings? So we've obviously done service bookings online as a product that we've launched in the last year. And secondly,
and I think about 17% of bookings are coming in online now, actually, service bookings.
So there's lots of work that the in marketing digital product team and obviously the dev team have done to develop products that not only making it a better customer journey, a more effortless customer journey, but saving us a lot of money at the same way. And then I think The last one is tracking and reporting. If we can't see what we can do, what we're doing and how that's performing, we can't make it better. And really the team's sort of structured around that.
Yeah.
That piece. But yeah, it's much more complicated than
Well, we've certainly got the right bits of expertise, and it is an expert job now. And it's not just an expert marketing job, it's an expert job within marketing in a particular niche almost.
Yeah.
And I've certainly come to and actually we did something interesting, Liz, didn't we, during the actual first lockdown, is every week we had an hour's training for our senior directors with MediaCom on a particular aspect of marketing. And I think that proved to us all that we're never going to become experts in those bits. We need to have an understanding, but we're not going to become experts.
And even, even my really well qualified retail marketing managers, they can't be an expert on every part of the media. You're just not. You employ the people that really know their stuff. And I think that's again what we've done differently. We've got some really good agencies on board, like MediaCom, a fantastic partner to us, and our creative agency, the Black Arts, as well. Those two we really couldn't do without. They augment the team.
Liz, we spend a lot of time talking about brands, and actually we spend a lot of money actually measuring our strength of our brands, and we've got 4 retail brands. What is the Virtue Motors brand strategy in retail?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, what is a brand strategy, I guess, and why do we need it? Well, we need it to be the unifying point, the thing that helps us make sure that the experience that we deliver is consistent across all the communications, whether that be our advertising, whether it be what we are on the web or in the dealership. And I think we have a great benefit in such a strong internal Virtue Motors vision and values, and that does really unify ourselves. But from the customer perspective, sometimes we're, Virtue Motors PLC is in the same town, but actually the customer base is different and we need to pull the brands apart a bit. So there are a couple of different points to this. So first of all, we've got the benefit of being different in Scotland to England, and through lockdown, having Macklin Motors in Scotland's been fantastic because we've been able to play the tune that we need in terms of communications and advertising and promotions and things. So that's
in a very different environment. Sometimes England was open, sometimes Scotland was shut, and vice versa, and very different cadence actually of marketing.
Yeah, so that's really been brilliant having that sort of geographical split. But actually, if you then look at England, we have different customer types, and there are sort of 5 factors that we believe differentiate. So they're sort of pulled on a spectrum, if you like. So you might have, aspiration. How is it that people sort of aspire less or aspire more for cars to be an important signal? It may be that people want a sort of more down to earth, friendly experience in the dealership, or they may want it to be more warmth, the Honda warmth. Chris Taylor's got his definition of that warmth, or in the Germanic brands, it may be a little bit of tipping of the hat. So there are a number of these things these factors that we're looking at to try and pull those apart, and it is a spectrum. Yeah, all of these things set in a spectrum. And Bristol Street, we're really confident about our communications for Bristol Street, and we've done a lot of work, I think, in delivering a much more consistent, certainly from an advertising perspective. So I'm really happy with that. Work to do with Virtue Motors, and I'm sure a lot of people listening will know that we're building out the virtuemotors.com brand. So we now have not just Honda, Kia, Toyota, and VW in that brand. We now have Audi in there fully. Mercedes-Benz is moving into that website this week, and then with our new acquisitions next week, we'll build in BMW and Mini. Farnell still sits and will continue to sit as its separate brand for now. But that's really important that we sort of get that communication slightly teased apart, but really clear.
And you spent quite a lot of money in the last 12 months. Well, you have we spend a lot of money anyway. You're always spending money, but on program sponsorship. Just talk through why you thought it was important and what the strategy was on Channel 4 program sponsorship, and what benefit you think it's given us.
Yeah, well, this is for Bristol Street Motors and for Macklin actually. And if you think about the job to be done, one has to increase awareness. So are people aware of us? If you say a list of dealerships, of brands, do they recognize that? You then have to increase the sort of understanding of what that brand is, or what the attributes, if you like, for the brand. And lastly, you need to motivate to purchase. And where the Channel 4 Formula One sponsorship worked particularly well is not just eking out the awareness within the target market by repeatedly showing assets and the logos, but actually the association with the program. So it's called borrowing assets. You sort of rub off effect is what it's called, because Formula One is seen as being very modern and contemporary. That's rubbing off on the Bristol Street brand, which is one of the things it needs to do, because we are modern. Our sales process is modern. We have omni-channel running through pretty much everything we do, but we've got to just cement that understanding of Bristol
But it's
Street.
quite an old brand, and it's been going 100 years, and it means a lot different to people in different regions, actually. If you go into the West Midlands, Bristol Street Motor is synonymous with Ford. If you come to the Northeast, it isn't synonymous with Ford.
Yeah, and I don't think the franchise really matters. What we have to be is true to ourselves and what we stand, and be reflective of the customer base that wants to come and purchase from us. And luckily, our franchises, our manufacturer franchises, split quite nicely, don't they? You've got the volume franchises that sit naturally in Bristol Street, and then Bristol Street Motors, and then of course Macklin Motors, of course, and then you have the premium and specialists that are sitting in vertimotors.com. So I think we have a sort of two key brands, of which volume is repeated in Scotland for Macklin, and then we have a raft of ancillary brands which are strong.
But I mean, Bristol Street Motors, last time I looked, which was only a couple of weeks ago, is, we think, the second biggest automotive retail brand in the United Kingdom from a franchise perspective, and the second biggest website. Interestingly, the player that's got the biggest prompted brand awareness hasn't got the biggest website, which I always find odd. But your objective is to be the biggest in both, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the physical presence absolutely is important, and it is a big driver of awareness locally. There's no doubt about it. Although you have to remember that if you drive past a Vertu Mercedes website, Vertu Mercedes dealership, you'd be struggle to see Vertu. Yeah, because at that point, the most important thing for a customer is that it's Mercedes. It's once we're in and dealing with people that then the Vertu really comes out. But yeah, Bristol Street, you set me the challenge to be number one for awareness, and we just are still just. I looked to check this morning.
I think that was lockdown related. I think.
I don't care. I'll take either win. We're neck and neck with Evans House Shaw. And Vertu Motors is early days, only 4% awareness UK wide, but it's a regional brand. That'll change as we put more of these franchise brands in it.
So lockdown, COVID, how's that changed what you do in marketing?
Oh, a lot. We have obviously had a lot of the team, most of the team, particularly in the first lockdown period, on furlough leave. So we had to prioritize and make some really tough decisions on what we were going to do and not do. And certainly lessons have been learned, without a doubt. We have a much greater focus on data and reporting. But I think, interestingly, it's not, I think before lockdown, we looked at the data historically. We looked at, I used to give you a great
you used to send me a 90-page monthly report 30 days after the month, and I would diligently plow through it and raise 150 questions, which we don't do anymore, do we?
Well, we don't do, because I think now we're really data driven, because we're actually looking at the data in the moment and making decisions based on trend, not just, something's happened today, and adjusting our strategy or adjusting our tactical plans on the basis of that. So we're in a way better place. But I think most importantly, beyond the sort of internal things, we've kept communicating with our customer base quickly, efficiently, and loudly, plenty of TV. And that decision was made that decision to keep spending was made so we continue growing awareness of our brand. So when we came out of lockdown, we were up there, and looking at the stats, as we just talked about, that certainly worked. And if you look at the advertising awareness stats, which is another one of those measures, we're ahead of everybody and have been through all this period, because we're up there and keeping ourselves front of mind. So I think it's definitely paid off.
Okay. What do you think the three most important things the department is trying to achieve, say, in the next 6 months? What are your three priorities?
Well, I think the first one, which is overarching, I guess, is to keep delivering opportunities to do business. It's our job as marketing. That's what we're here to do, and do it efficiently. And to do that, we need to keep watching the trends, and keep talking on our morning calls about whether we're spending the right amount or not to do that. I think beyond that, obviously building the Vertu Motors brand, both the advertising and the website for vertumotors.com, is really important. We get that right, and a lot of energy is going into that at the moment. creating the
And actually, you did sponsor another Channel 4 program with the Virtue brand, didn't you? Actually,
yeah, how to build, and it was how to build. And there was a range of how to build certain cars, and the last one was how to build the fastest car. Sorry, and that again was really good rub-off effect. And I think it was useful with the manufacturers as well. I think you found that it was talked about along with the F1 in conversations with manufacturers, and I think that always helps. We have to remember that the audience is not just the customers. We have our internal audience, our colleagues whom we're talking to today, our shareholders, and our customers, and the manufacturers as franchise dealerships. I think all of that is quite important. And then I think the last one is,
and I think there is a job to do actually in terms of getting marketing closer to the marketing functions of the manufacturers. We need to be far more joined up. And historically, I don't think we necessarily have been. So I think there's a lot of work to do there. And I know you've brought some extra resource in. For example, we've got a new premium marketing director on board, haven't we? And key job, I guess, is to spend time with the manufacturers and understand their strategies and make sure we're aligned.
Yeah, so Chris Harris, I think that him joining and Ellen Gullickson heading up a retail marketing for volume, I think that gives us two senior marketeers that are really well placed and well qualified to have the right communications and the right contacts with more senior people in the manufacturers. I think we've always had the retail marketing team have always had good day-to-day dialogue. We have to just get the assets out of the door and the program is in place. But I think the last thing focused for the next 6 months is obviously delivering the new acquisitions, and actually not just getting them launched, but making a success of them.
And you've got a substantial plan for 18 months in terms of growing awareness of the new acquisitions and making sure we drive extra inquiries in and take market share quite aggressively.
Absolutely. It is absolutely. We're going to be on television for 9 months of the year with Virtue Motors, between the events, the centralized events that we're going to do for them, and also always on for used. Yeah, so it's a big program.
No, massive program, and we need to get it right. I suppose my final question is, what advice would you give yourself aged 18?
Well,
and actually, you've got kids who are probably 18 now. Actually,
yeah. Clarissa's 18, and we were at dinner before I read your question that you were going to ask me today, talking about exactly that point. So really pertinent. And
this is we have to work on the basis that they wouldn't listen, of course. So putting aside,
she's next door studying, so I'm not going to get her into this, but I think she might.
So what would you tell your 18-year-old self as a piece of advice?
Know what success looks like and give 100%. 110% actually. So you never need to say, if only I'd put more into this, if only I prepared better, if only I tried a bit harder. And I've got two stories, if you've got a moment. I've got two stories where that comes from. So before university, I had a year out and looked after horses for Lord Hampton. On day one, whilst hanging up some hay nets, I dropped some bits of hay on the path. And my new boss, a rather scary Irish head groom, Rosemary Dowie, told me in no uncertain terms, what's the point of you being here if I have to clean up after you? Day one. So, so I've used that ever since, just, the 4 bits of straw thought, that what does success look? What do you need from me? And I'm always trying to ask you, what do you need from me? What does success look like? What's the job to be done, I guess, in a phrase. The second bit came, I think, when I worked for Orange, and it was an amazing brand. For those that remember, it's not in the UK anymore.
Many years ago, Liz, many years ago. There'll be many youngsters have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, if they go to France, they'll still see it, but we can go there at a moment, really. But what I learned there, and the marketing was the best marketing I think ever done, probably, is that when you do something really well, when you really give that 110%, you get that funny feeling in your tummy. You know it's right. You get that.
Well, you're in your zone, aren't you? You're in your zone.
Get that little bit, and I think if you can get that with everything you do, and then really know what your aim is, really know what you're trying to achieve, they're the two things.
Oh, that's interesting. That's good. I don't talk to my children about any of that because they just ignore me.
Well, I'm going to go and ask her in a minute.
We leave all parental communication to my wife because they really don't take any notice of me at all.
I'm sure you set an example anyway.
So there we go. Well, it's great to talk to you, Liz. I think
Thank you.
I think the colleagues in the business, and we may even put this on LinkedIn, because I think I'm sure a wider audience would probably like to listen to what the business is up to and what our marketing function's up to and what you've been up to. So thank you very much for your time this morning. I know these things are always a little bit daunting.
Well, at least it wasn't a bad one-to-one. You haven't.
Well, at least we haven't had an
rated me
appraisal.
yet.
We haven't done the formal appraisal online, which I suppose
No, I've
we could
enjoyed
do.
it. Thank you, Robert.
And well, thank you very much, Liz, and good luck with all the work that's going on this week.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.